What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next video in our Dolby Institute series for kids who can't hear good and want to do other things good too.
Sounds like me.
Yep.
That's right. The first thing you need to know about mixing is that it's really only about two things: balance and clarity. Now, while this sounds simple, how you get to that end is often a game of technical knowledge and personal intuition.
A lot of it's personal intuition, though. So, anyways, here's the basics of sound mixing. Long time ago, when microphones and speakers were first invented, all audio was played through a single speaker or your little record horn, and all audio recording was captured only using one microphone. This meant that the only way to balance your mix was to actually have the musicians or actors move closer or further away from the microphone. That technique still applies today, it's just that we're using software to do the same thing instead.
Now we're taking all those elements you hear, dialogue, Foley, music, effects, all at different levels and finding the best fit for them all.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
How do you do that?
I don't know. Let's start at the beginning. Levels. Balancing your audio.
The first important factor in sound mixing is consistency. For example, a character speaking in a natural volume at the beginning of your piece, it should sound as loud as the character speaking at the end of the piece.
People pull up the video and they adjust the volume themselves. So they're going to start hearing somebody talk, or they're going to hear the music, and they're going to adjust the volume to where that's comfortable. So everything else needs to be correct relative to that starting point. What is considered loud and soft is relative. And if you adjust your volume during this process, you're going to throw it off.
So simply set your headphones and speakers to a comfortable level at the beginning, and don't adjust them until you're done mixing the piece. One easy way to calibrate your system without going into your levels and dealing with numbers and facts and all that stuff is basically by opening up a few of your favorite songs that are well mixed, maybe a few videos on YouTube that are well mixed as well. Videos such as The Poacher. Assassin's Creed 4.
Nobody move!
That's it. Don't adjust to any of them. Those are the only ones that are really mixed. Just listening to them, adjusting your volume as necessary, just finding that comfortable sweet spot where you can distinguish both the loud and the soft parts. And if you do that, you'll have actually calibrated your system for mixing right there by basing it off of a bunch of pre-existing material.
Chances are you have that little audio meter that's popping up and you see your little audio spiking in there. And you might be going, well, why don't you just tell me what number I should set my audio to? Okay. Now, generally speaking, like, these are just guidelines, and these are guidelines for YouTube videos. So it's different if you're delivering for TV and film and all those actual, way more standardized systems.
So, after doing a little bit more research, we have come to a few definitive numbers when it comes to the actual levels you can be mixing at. It's a very flexible and ever-changing area, but when it comes to online stuff though, there are a few guidelines to use. First off, you have to consider everyone's watching this on a bunch of different devices. It could be on a phone, it could be on nice studio speakers like this, it could be coming through a TV. You can't actually guarantee that they're going to be playing it through one particular sound source, so you have to make it safe. And those safe levels are generally as follows. The most important factor, you'll have your dialogue generally between -5 and -10 decibels, allowing just a little bit of headroom for louder sound effects. As far as the sound effects themselves are concerned, you can go from 0 down to around, I'd say about -18 decibels. Anything below -18 isn't probably going to be heard on a like a mobile device or a tablet very well. Same goes for music. The main thing with this though is you have to realize that speakers are low quality, and so generally the dynamic range of your sound sources and your audio cannot be that high when compared to a theatrical piece or something seen on TV. So there you go, numbers.
Getting organized. While working on your audio, it's very good practice to keep your tracks organized before you go into mixing. And that's everything from making sure you have your music and your dialogue and your sound effects and your ambient stuff all grouped together. And that way, when you need to start mixing your stuff later on, everything is there in the same tracks. You don't have a gunshot in your wind track and your wind track in your dialogue track. Basically, it's organized and you're not confused when you start mixing it.
Not to mention, if anybody else ever works with you, it's way easier for somebody else to actually work with you if you're organized. Chances are, there's gonna be a project here and there, you'll come back to it a few months later, and if it's not organized, you're gonna be lost.
Now that your sounds are all together and organized, you're ready to start creating the next stage in mixing, which is
Submixes.
Submixes now are those select portions of your final mix. This often comes in the form of grouping the similar sounds, such as dialogue from one person or Foley from, a character walking, essentially allowing you to mix the entirety of that specific type of sound without affecting everything else.
When creating the submix, level the individual clips volumes so they're all at the same volume. All the gunshots are at the same volume for the gunshot submix. All the dialogue is at the same volume for the dialogue submix. And now that you have your submix, it's way easier to apply levels and filters. Need a little reverb on those gunshots, Sam?
Yep.
One filter will cover them all.
Exactly. Boom. If you need an equalizer to make your Foley sound like it's part of the same scene or with a different microphone, again, one filter on that entire submix since you've organized them.
It's kind of the same thing as doing your first correction pass where you match the exposure between all your clips, and then when you go in to do like a beauty grade, you can just apply it once and it goes across everything correctly because everything's been balanced first.
You also might find that you'll need to make submixes on a per scene level in case your scenes take place in different locations and will require different levels/filters for each individual scene instead of for the entire piece overall.
Finally, after you've mixed and placed all your submixes, you're going to want to balance and master all of them in relation to each other to ensure that every mix sounds and feels as though it is part of one scene.
You'll have to be very careful with which ones are getting the most attention. This is where the personal intuition comes into play. If one is too overpowering, consider lowering the volume to balance it out with the rest. So, once you're all done and all those submixes are there together, you might find upon exporting them that maybe it's a little too quiet or maybe it's a little too loud, but that's okay because you can just go right back in and still maintain that dynamic range that you've mixed everything with. So now, after a little trial and error at that point, you've got a perfect mix. Hooray, and you're done.
Yep, remember, balance and clarity are king. They are the monarch. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something here. Just like when you color grade and you get your exposure right so you can see everything. Same thing with levels. You're going to get it right so you can hear everything.
Exactly.
And you're going to make it relative to each other, and you're going to give things the right attention. You're going to bring them in and out.
You're opening up your hand-controlled interface and
Minority Report.